I don't know if I know your hints, so this is going to be a total, surprise this morning or this evening. I don't even know what time of day it is right now.
Or what are you drinking and how long have you been drinking it for?
Yes, I'm drinking Happy Dad hard seltzer this evening.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, I thought I kind of liked the logo and it sort of seemed space age a little bit, so I wasn't sure where we were going tonight. So, Happy Dad seltzer it is. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I'm drinking a strawberry lemonade soda water because it's still summer here. It's still hot as balls. My story is going to feel less summery, a little bit less summery, yeah. And so I'm drinking a red wine in a clearly water spotted glass. I don't know what it is with this. I have like cleaned it with so many different things and they will
Huh.
not come off. They're like etched in there.
Hmm. That's
But I promise
interesting.
it's clean.
Yeah, yeah, sure it is.
We've got
About as
hard
clean
water
as you
here.
are.
Exactly. Filthy.
Oh, yes.
Filthy and used. Uh, yeah, so I didn't give you hints because I hadn't decided on my story yet. And I actually changed it on Sunday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Or no, maybe it was Saturday. I had a bunch of articles pulled up to do something different. And when I got there, I just couldn't find like one thing to like make it compelling. And I'm sure there's something out there that I could have done. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to tell you what it was in case I decide to do it for my next one.
Right.
But so I did a little switcheroo at the last minute. Yeah, but well, so let me intro and we can go from there.
Sounds great.
Welcome to Forbidden, the podcast where we discuss the disgusting, the dark, and the disgraceful in our unmentionables. Yes, that's right, listener. We've slipped into something more comfortable, and we hope that you are doing the same. I am Blake Roberts.
And I'm Amanda Kamada. And I would like to take this moment at the first of our episode to welcome all of our new viewers on YouTube. We did the story on Anne Heche, and we gained quite a few new followers, new watchers. So welcome and salutations, all the above. Cheers. Thank you for
Cheers. I
listening.
don't know how to say welcome in Afrikaans, but I know we had some South African viewers, so that was fun.
Yes, that was exciting. We've gone global officially.
Finally, I wish I could. I can't get out of this damn country.
Yeah.
And this is our third series.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, our third limited series, Unexplained, where we celebrate exploration, imagination, science fact, and fiction. Yeah, so join us as we strip down both tales, both tall and possibly true.
Right.
Yes.
I'm very excited about this series. Because it's so broad of a subject that I absolutely have no idea where you're going with yours. I know where I'm going with mine, and I will give my hints on our talk of shame, coming up in our next episode. But can't wait to hear about yours. So kick it off whenever you like.
We're going all the way to Harrison Hot Springs. It's a small scenic town along the Harrison River in British Columbia.
Hmm.
It's about 2.5 hours drive east of Vancouver. The Fraser River lies a short distance to the south, and it runs like on the, what do you call that? Parallel or lateral, or I can't remember. Do you know geography or science?
I don't.
God, we're screwed. Um,
All I know is that if it's in British Columbia, it's probably a beautiful area.
yeah, it is. Yeah, so the River lies a short distance to the south, and the Chehalis River nearby to the northwest. The area is surrounded by mountains and a number of destinations that draw their names from indigenous languages. So just as you mentioned, it's lush green in the summertime, pine trees everywhere, huge mountains like looming in the distance, and just like winding rivers and campgrounds and small towns. It looks really beautiful.
You had me at everything but campgrounds because I hate camping.
Well, you and I can go to the resort nearby.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't Banff up there?
Yes, and it's beautiful.
Let's go there.
Okay, we'll go to
We
Banff.
can drive through Harrison Hot Springs on the way.
Right, right.
Here's a little bit of information from Stahalis.com. The name Stahalis is derived from the Halkomelem word Stahalis. I don't know how to pronounce it. Listen, I have some indigenous in me. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, the word means the beating heart. The Stahalis name is also derived from a most important transformer legend about an Indian doctor, Shay, who lived on the west side of Harrison Lake at Doctor's Point and did battle with Jals, I don't XA colon LS. So get
Jaws.
creative.
Yeah, yeah.
So that thing, creature, spirit, person, was the great transformer who walked this earth in the distant past to put things right. According to our so this is from the website. According to our legends, upon defeating Shay, the doctor, Jahalis, ripped his heart from his chest and threw it downriver, where it landed at Stahalis, near the confluence of the Chehalis and Harrison rivers. So it's the Stahalis people living near the Chehalis River. If you can keep that straight, congratulations. So the following stories that I'm going to share are from an April 1st, 1929 article by J.W. Burns featured in Maclean's magazine. So it's an old article. And the first story is about a man named Charlie Victor. So Charlie Victor and 3 other young Stahalis men were picking salmon berries. I have no idea what that is, and it sounds like fishy. They're picking salmon berries along a rocky slope when they came upon a cavern hidden by a large boulder. They gathered some pitchwood, lit torches, and entered the cave. A short distance inside, they can make out a crudely constructed shelter, but before they could investigate, their torches went out and they left. After sharing their story, they were warned by elders not to return to the site for fear of disturbing the Chaska'uts, or as we call them, the Sasquatch.
Oh.
And this is likely where a lot of people attribute the name Sasquatch to this J.W. Burns article. So J.W. Burns spent a lot of time with Stahalis people and learned their stories. But I think there's like a little bit of a flub in translation. So they call it Chaska'uts, and we call them Sasquatch.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a game of telephone.
Mm-hmm.
As young men do, they ignored the advice of the elders and returned to the cave. However, upon arrival, the boulder had been rolled in front of the entrance and they could not enter. So this massive boulder had been moved. I don't know if you've ever tried moving a small boulder. Like a large rock is heavy.
Right. Right.
So these Sasquatch are mighty strong. Sasquatch is considered a sacred being that protects the land and people, deeply rooted in indigenous spirituality rather than just a cryptid or myth. The Harrison River Valley, a region with a rich history of Sasquatch sightings, now blends these indigenous beliefs with the more sensationalized Western fascination. And from what I could tell from looking at maps, there's a lot of campgrounds and hotels and motels that use the name Sasquatch in their branding.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tourist gimmick, and I'm totally hooked. I'm going to go.
Yes.
For the Stahelus, encountering Sasquatch is seen as a blessing, reinforcing the importance of living in harmony with nature. So I'm going to jump to a gentleman named Peter. One May evening in the early 1900s, turn of the century, Chehalis man named Peter was walking along the foot of the mountain near Chehalis Reserve when he heard a grunt. Just 20 or 30 yards away, he saw what he thought was a huge bear crouching on top of a boulder. There's lots of boulders in this story. I don't know why. I guess there's just lots of them up there. Peter raised his rifle, and the creature stood upright and let out a piercing yell. It was at least 6.5 feet high and covered in hair. It leapt from the boulder, and Peter took off. Through the bush and undergrowth, the creature trailed him at about 100 feet, and when he looked back a short time later, just 50 feet separated the two. So it's gaining on him. It's moving real, real quick.
Oh my God.
This guy runs like I do. He's like flailing arms, looking over his shoulder, and this thing's just catching up. Peter fled across the Chehalis River. The creature waded across the river with ease. Peter arrived at his home and was relieved to find his wife and children safely inside, so he bolts the door and barricades. So he's just in there, and they're all just hunkered down. 20 minutes later, he heard trampling noises and peered through a crack in the old wall. It was sunset, and he could just make out the hairy figure. It pressed against the wall, causing the cedar timbers to shake and creak. His wife and children hid under the bed as the Sasquatch prowled around the house for some time. The following morning, Peter investigated the property and found muddy tracks measuring 22 inches in length.
Whoa.
So this thing is 6.5 feet tall with 22-inch feet.
Wow. That is very large. And
No.
I want
And we just take a moment to
let's take a moment to take that in real quickly, because that size foot, I'm wondering what correlates with that.
It probably had a massive nose. Yes. So the home had been so badly damaged that the family actually had to abandon it before the following winter.
Oh my gosh.
Like, this thing had compromised the structure of the home. That very winter, Peter was shooting wild duck on the north side of the Harrison River, about 2 miles from the village, when he once again witnessed the creature. Again, he ran for his life with the wild man in close pursuit, but after 300 or 400 yards, the giant gave up and retreated. And they called it a giant, and they acted like 6.5 feet tall was like really, really like a giant.
Mm-hmm.
I think for us, that's like, oh, that guy could like be on the Lakers.
Right. It's like it's like a
but
pro
maybe,
basketball player.
Yeah, maybe at turn of the century, people weren't quite as tall. And
I
so it
think
was like,
that's right. I think that's right, because I actually went to, this is totally off off subject, but I went to a Louis Vuitton exhibit one time, and they had actual luggage and stuff like that people had from the turn of the century, like those trunk luggage, like where people would carry all of their clothing with them when they were traveling, because traveling was a really big deal back then,
Yeah.
and so people would take pretty much everything that they owned with them, and the clothing was so tiny, and I'm saying tiny as a 5-foot person, like I'm very small, but people were definitely smaller back then, so I would guess that 6'5" would seem very tall. And I think some indigenous people tend to be shorter as well. I know everyone in my family that was indigenous was very short.
That sounds racist, Amanda. But yeah, I agree. And maybe I don't know why we all have these growth spurts. Maybe it was all the healthy food, like all the McDonald's that people eat now.
Mm-hmm.
Made us taller.
Yeah, all the processed foods.
Yeah, we're putting all these preservatives in there on top of all the other things, and it just all sits in there. And your body is like, all right, there's nowhere to go but up and out.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing. On the same afternoon, a man named Paul, so we have Peter and Paul. It's so biblical. A man named Paul was also chased from the creek where he had been fishing for salmon. He had no gun, and he ran in terror, falling from exhaustion into the snow near his shack. His family had to carry him home. So again, the thing chased him a short distance and gave up. Sometime later, Peter and his wife were fishing from, so we're back to Peter. It's Peter, Paul, and now back to Peter. Sometime later, Peter and his wife were fishing from a canoe when they saw the same figure on the beach. He said, "We stood for a long time looking at him, but he took no notice of us. That was the last time I saw him." Peter stressed that these creatures were in no way related to the indigenous peoples and believed that there were a few living in the surrounding mountains. So I'm going to jump back to Charlie Victor real quick because he has a little bit. His description of the Sasquatch is a little bit different, and he had something different to say about it at the end. So back to Charlie Victor, with whom this whole story began. Some years after his initial encounter, he was out hunting when his dog began barking at a large hole in a tree 7 feet above the ground. So I keep picturing trees in like Oklahoma or Arkansas or Arizona and picturing like, I don't know, like a live oak or something that doesn't like get holes that big. But this is, I'm reminding myself, this is Pacific Northwest and the trees get massive.
Yep.
So like huge, thick trunk and this massive hole that's about 7 feet up. So Charlie Victor he's probably not 6.5 feet tall, right? So his dog is barking and is trying to like scale the tree. So he gives his dog a boost. It gets into the hole and attacks something. And he hears cries and he thinks, oh, this is like a young bear. So he takes aim at the hole, thinking that his dog is going to flush this bear out. And as soon as this figure appears, Charlie fires. He was alarmed to see what appeared to be a nude white boy of 12 to 14 years of age. He was covered in woolly black hair and when approached, let out a loud call. So that confused me a little bit at first because it said he appeared to be a nude white boy, but then said he was covered in woolly black hair. But other descriptions from Charlie said that the hair only partially covered the bodies and mostly it sounds like head and upper torso. So this thing, sort of like a mermaid, like you have part cryptid up top and then just like a nude kid, like preteen from the waist down.
Wow.
So and there was not like a clear description, but that was sort of what I was picturing in my head based on what he's saying. So this thing lets out a loud call, and then from across the mountain, a booming howl called back. Every now and again, the boy would call, and the responding howl returned, louder and nearer. So Charlie is just staying there. And it didn't say why, but I think it sort of sounds like he was sticking around to help save the creature because it so resembled a human. So he's sticking around while these, like, I'm sure terrifying calls were getting louder and louder. Within a half hour, a large wild creature emerged from the surrounding forest. It approached Charlie on 2 legs and appeared to be female. Her long, straight hair fell to her waist, but her chest and shoulders were bigger and broader than that of a human. She spoke in a native tongue, saying, "You have shot my friend." And Charlie explained in the same voice, in the same tongue, he had made a mistake. She began a dance around the boy, chanting in a loud voice. She held what appeared to be animal intestines, repeatedly striking the ground with it. Picking up the boy with one hairy hand, she turned to Charlie and said, "You'll never kill another bear." So, because he had thought he had killed a bear. Instead, it didn't say if this creature died, but she picks it up with one hand and carries it off. He believes that the boy was not Sasquatch and was likely abducted from humans and raised by Sasquatch. He also believes that because they speak and understand the same language, they must be related to the indigenous people. So a little bit different from what Peter had said. And the description of the character he gave was definitely more animal and more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
and just like let out like straight into an attack. Whereas this one seems like had a sense of reason to it, you know? According to Stehalis legend, Sasquatch is a shapeshifter and can transform from his physical form into a spirit form, which is why people will never be able to catch him.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I kind of like that tie up. So my sources for this were again Stehalis.com, and that's spelled Stasailes.com. I did a little bit of I pulled a few little factoids from Wikipedia. I try not to do that because it's not 100% reliable, but we are talking cryptids here, so take what you
That's true.
and then an article from bbc.com, the true origin of Sasquatch. And then of course the main source I pulled here was that Maclean's magazine article from April 1st, 1929, titled BC's Hairy Giants by J.W. Burns. I liked the way that story closed. I liked that little blurb from the Stehalis people about Sasquatch being a shapeshifter. Because I feel like more and more folklore and mythology and legends, I feel like people believe in them less and less because of science and technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
True.
that's sad. I love it. There's something to me, it's like Halloween. Like it makes me feel like a kid when I hear these stories. And it makes my imagination run. And I think it's sad that some people don't have that and just immediately jump to, oh, it's not real because it can't be proven, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love Bigfoot stories.
There was definitely some trickle down. I guess maybe, a lot of the Sasquatch stuff started in BC and stuff like that. But whenever I lived in Seattle, there was lots of talk of Sasquatch and stuff like that. Even there, of course, it's not terribly far from British Columbia, and the topography and scenery and stuff is very similar, and so if there in fact is a Sasquatch or something like that, and that's where they choose to live, in those forts, it reminds me kind of that Twilight series, with vampires and stuff like that. They chose like Washington State, to set that
Mhm.
in. And I'm very into the whole vampire thing as well as, Sasquatch. So really good story there. What happened to the fucking dog? Did the dog survive this?
Yes.
I
They,
hope.
they didn't really tie that part of the story up. So I think
Yeah.
let's assume yes, because anything otherwise is just sad and depressing.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought about it. I was like, oh my God, what about the dog?
Yeah.
um, but I hope that the kid didn't die. Maybe they took it and were able to do something to it where it resurrected itself somehow, and that sort of thing. You never
Yeah.
know with this kind of stuff, because it is folklore. And do they have special things that they can do, special, medicines, or, they live off the land, they're
Yeah.
not being seen in, normal life, and that sort of thing. So maybe that person or whatever it was did survive. I
Yeah.
felt it was interesting that the accounts were different in the way that they actually looked, and them noting that it wasn't the same one necessarily that everybody was seeing, which was interesting.
I have a theory on that.
Hmm.
So I feel like what Peter witnessed, Peter and Paul, was like sort of truer version of the Sasquatch, and what Charlie Victor saw was maybe like, I'm doing air quotes because I'm thinking of the Cher song Half Breed,
Hmm.
half Sasquatch and half human. And I don't know why. I mean, if that were to happen, I think there's one way for that to happen. So when I was writing this, I was watching a bunch of Bigfoot movies and shows, just like get in the mood. One of them was this ridiculous movie from 1980. I think it was called like Night of the Demon or something. Super campy, very gory, and like a lot of sex. So it was fantastic. But there was a part in the movie where, trigger warning, Sasquatch rapes a woman and then she gets pregnant.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's a crazy segment of the movie, and she's got this like religious zealot father who beats her and like calls her a sinner all the time. And then she gets assaulted by Sasquatch, and they show it, and he steps out and witnesses it. So he takes the baby after she gives birth to it, and he kills it. And so she's like spends the rest of the movie like freaking out, and she's like crazy, but mostly not because she was attacked, sexually assaulted by Bigfoot, but because her baby was killed, which is sort of
Interesting.
interesting. But that's kind of what I was picturing. It's like maybe that happened, and that's where that kid came from,
Right.
and why the woman was able to speak not English, but whatever language. I think it was that one I tried to pronounce at the beginning. It started with an H. Halcum, Halcamalum. Whatever that language was. Yeah.
There were some really difficult words to pronounce in this story. So good on you for getting through that.
Well, I don't know if it was good on me. I probably did it all wrong, but
I'm sure we'll hear about it.
yeah. All of our many listeners from British Columbia will let us know.
Yes, yes.
Oh, but also the Stateless people, when I was on their website, like their flag has Sasquatch in it.
Really?
It's really cool. It's very stylized. Like I can't describe it well, but it sort of has like a totem pole sort of design
Mhm.
to it, but it's like a moving like a Sasquatch. It's pretty cool.
Interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, and they do like a big Sasquatch fest every year. I can't remember what they call it. And then there's like a some sort of a sporting event. I didn't really read into it because I had zero interest in that.
Yeah, if there's sports involved, I don't think that you are going to want to do much with that.
Not my jam.
No.
Lots of Sasquatch type things happening up there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One to watch.
It also made me think of from my childhood, Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh my god, totally forgot about that movie. Wasn't John Lithgow in that? Didn't
Yes.
he play the dad?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that movie. It came out, I think, like 89 or something. I was born in 82, so and I've always loved monsters, and so I thought I love that movie.
Mhm.
But I loved it. I love the whole movie. It's super atmospheric. It sort of romanticizes that part of the country. It's very beautiful. Like it starts in the forest, and then I think they shoot Bigfoot by accident, or they hit him or something.
I think they hit him, don't they?
Yeah,
Ma
I think
like
so.
with a car or something like that?
Yeah, so you've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I it was probably in 1989 the last time I saw it, but yes, I have seen the movie.
That's hilarious. I assumed that you hadn't seen it because I thought you maybe were just like a little too old to get into that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was so fun.
Yeah. I remember feeling, like, sad for him too because,
Yeah,
like, he was different and they really humanized his character,
yeah,
more so than just making him Sasquatch and this, like, evil they really humanized. I
yeah.
remember that movie. That makes me wanna watch the movie and just kinda see what it was all about.
So I still like it. I watched it not not extremely recently, but I'll probably watch. Oh, I could watch that this week because Josh is gone, and he would
Mhm.
hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, he was like super expressive. The way they designed him, like big, like super human eyes, human-like
Mhm.
eyes, and like
Mhm.
very expressive, like mechanized facial features. So it was like his eyebrows moved, and he smiled real big, and
Yeah. showed lots of emotion and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah. I
I
remember
was
liking
thinking,
that movie.
yeah, it's fun. You should revisit. Um, I think what I'll probably do is if you're watching this on YouTube, then well, you're watching it on YouTube, but also I'll probably post one of the archive videos, um, that story noodling on Bigfoot.
Hmm.
I'll probably post that as like a bonus for this series
Cool.
because it sort of fits.
Hmm.
But yeah. So yeah, that was short but sweet Sasquatch tale.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. That was actually very interesting. And I always wondered where, the origins of Bigfoot and stuff like that sort of come from. And it sounds like British Columbia, Pacific Northwest is definitely an area where they are or potentially are.
Yeah, and there's like the Yeti from the Himalayas, and probably just I'm talking about them like they're real, and I'm going to continue to do that. But probably just like people, there's different species, or not different species,
Hmm.
but like different races of
Hmm.
Sasquatch.
Right.
So you've got like the Yeti, and I think Florida has like the skunk ape, and then there's the Falk monster from Falk, Arkansas, like Texarkana area, and yeah, I think there's probably a number of, but the reason why I switched my story was because as I was reading that BBC article that linked to the old 1929 article, it said that that was likely where the term Sasquatch came from. And so that's why I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun fact. Like, even
Yeah.
if you're not in like super into cryptids and unexplained things like that, it's still just like the history of like oral tradition and folklore and the passing down of stories like that, I'm super fascinated by. And so I figured that's interesting for some people.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, there's a dog barking in the background.
Maybe it's a Bigfoot. It's a
Yeah.
skunk ape in Florida.
Yes. What they call it? Skunk ape?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. That must be in northern Florida, or is it
Yeah.
around the Everglades?
I think it's Everglades.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah,
Would
that's
make sense. I wanna go to the Everglades, but then, like, I'm also really scared to go to the Everglades because it is teeming with, like, alligators and crocodiles and snakes and all that kinda stuff, and I would be one to be on, like, one of those airboat things and it, like, tip over, and then I get mauled by a reptile because that's how my luck goes.
oh my gosh. If that happens, I'm gonna record an episode. It's gonna be called Erectile Dysfunction.
Maybe we should go to the Everglades when you come here. We could do a
I
little day
want to.
trip
I'm gonna
to
do
the
that
Everglades.
photo shoot that I like sent you that image from the back of the boat.
Mm,
That would be fun to do in the Everglades on one of those with like the big thing on the back, you know?
yeah, yeah. I think they're called airboats, right? Because
Sure.
I think that big thing is like a fan or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, but the store right next to my store actually sells like Everglades tours and stuff like that, so they could probably hook us up for a good price as an
sweet.
aside. Yeah, if we wanted to do that.
I'm cheap. I mean, I was willing to like give a BJ to the person, but if we can get it through an agency at a discounted price, let's do that.
Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
don't know if some of these Everglade tours people are the type of people that you want to give BJs to. They might be a little rough around the edges.
And it's all swampy out there and down
Yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
moist,
Yes, yes.
humid,
Humid, very humid.
south of the border.
Yeah, we gotta be careful with that one.
The funky swamp smells. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, where can people find us? I guess I can tell them that they can continue watching us on YouTube. We don't really do our talks of shame on YouTube, but you can listen to all of our episodes on Spotify and Apple at the Forbidden Pod and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at the Forbidden Pod. Send us your stories, send us your feedback, all of
Send
that
us your
good.
nudes.
Send us your nudes at hello@theforbiddenpod.com, and also follow us on our website. Lots of good content there. Gratuitous nudity.
Yes.
Kidding. But really fun content at www.theforbiddenpod.com.
Yep.
I think I covered everything there.
Oh, also, rate, review, and subscribe. Right? Did you say that?
I don't know if I hit the rate, review, and subscribe, so
My mind
definitely do
started.
that.
Honestly, I lost interest, Amanda, when you were
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, it's easy to.
Or it could be this wine. But yeah, rate, review, and subscribe on all the things. Share. Hit the share button. Share with your friends. Word of mouth is always a great referrals. It's a great way to get new people for us. And
Share with your friends, share with your enemies, share with everyone.
yeah, if you hate us, share it with your enemies. If you love us, share it with your friends. Just share. Sharing is
Yes,
caring.
it is. It is. Well,
Yeah.
Blake, thank you so much for that interesting story. I feel like I learned a lot about a part of British Columbia that I've never really explored before.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for listening, Amanda.
And listeners, as always, we thank
Thank
you.
you.